and welcome back to Bullish on Business. And today I'm so excited because we have an author with us. Hi, Joan. How are you today?
Hello, I'm great. Yeah.
Good, good. Well, we met the other day over at the Cadillac Book Fest that we had downtown. I think it's been maybe a month now. It was an awesome event, and I really wanted my audience, you all, to have a chance to meet Joan. So she is Joan H. Young, a trailblazer in every sense of the word. Really, she's the first woman to complete the 4,800-mile North Country Trail. We'll hear more about that today. An achievement she repeated again at age 75. You go, girl. She's also the author of North Country Cash, The Dead Mule Swamp Mysteries, and Dubois Files for Kids. And most recently, How to Hike the North Country Trail, Not Quite a Guide. Through her publishing house, Books Leaving Footprints, Joan combines outdoor adventure, small town mystery, and practical wisdom for anyone who wants to leave their mark on the page or the trail. We're going to talk about hiking, writing, and what it means to keep moving forward no matter what. So before we get going, how you feeling today? I know you were out there this morning.
I feel great. I had a little hike.
Awesome, very cool. Can't keep her down. Okay, first thing we like to do is just so our audience and people and me get a chance to know you a little bit better. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into the writing and your adventures?
Sure. So I grew up in the Finger Lakes of New York State, which is gorgeous.
Very beautiful.
Ended up in Michigan because this is where my husband got a job. We met in college. So I've been in Western Michigan for 55 years.
Okay.
No, 56 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And we did youth ministry and raised three boys, tried at least.
Yeah,
Three boys is an adventure,
that's
right?
for sure.
And I had always been very interested in the outdoors, Girl Scouting and camping, and had not done any long hikes, but I'd done some overnight backpacking trips. I did get to go on a 10-day canoe trip as a teenager, and then did not get a single hiker in the whole bunch of all those people, my husband or the kids. And so I was able to get back to hiking when the youngest was a junior, I think, in high school. I was driving to Cadillac, and I no longer have any idea why I was coming to Cadillac but we didn't come here very often,
Huh.
but I was coming to Cadillac, and on M55, this particular sign is gone, but at the time there was a huge brown Forest Service sign, North Country National Scenic Trail, at the trailhead there.
Mhm.
And so on my way home, I stopped and I went, I'm like, North or National Scenic Trail right here. What is this?
Wow.
Because
National even.
right, well, the
Wow.
only it turns out at that time I didn't even really know what a national scenic trail was, but I figured the Appalachian Trail was one, and it was the first one, but it was around before there were national scenic trails. So I stopped, and there was an address, and I wrote for information, and boy, oh boy, I have fallen in love with the North Country Trail.
Really? That's so fascinating. I'm just going to pivot a minute, and it reminds me of the story of Grandma Moses.
Oh, no, you mean Grandma Gatewood?
No, I'm talking Grandma Moses, the artist. So the story goes that when Grandma Moses was a young girl, she wanted to paint, and she couldn't paint because she was told she was a farm girl.
She was a girl.
She was raised on a farm. She needed to marry a farmer, have farm kids, and that was her life.
Okay.
And so she obeyed and she didn't pursue her painting. Well, she's around 75 or 77, and her husband's dead. Her children are raised. The farm is gone. And she said, you know what? I'm going to buy some paint. And so she did. And then Grandma Moses became so famous, and her
Right.
paintings are
Everywhere.
worth millions.
Yeah.
And it's the story of that she finally got to follow her heart's desire. And I just thought of that when you were telling us
Okay.
your story, and now you're doing your heart's desire, I think.
Um, yeah, I'm very happy. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
And of course, there's a famous trail grandma, Grandma Gatewood.
Tell me about her.
Well, um, she, a similar story. She had 11 kids and a fairly abusive husband, and the kids were grown, and I think he died. And she said, "I'm going for a walk," and she put on a pair of tennis shoes and put a shower curtain and some clothes in a pillowcase, and was the first woman to solo hike the Appalachian Trail. She was 67 years old.
Wow. How long ago was that? Do you know? Was it?
It was in the 50s.
Wow, good for her. My
Yeah,
goodness. I think I have heard of her now that you bring up
yeah,
the whole story, because that was amazing.
yeah.
Well, we as women need to try and break out of our shells before we have all of those people out of our life, if we just could. But now is the time. We are living in the time where we can do what we need to do and want to do.
Well, I still have my health, and I don't have as many responsibilities. I don't have grandkids, which actually is fine. So nobody's calling me up and saying, "Can you
You
babysit?"
babysit,
Right.
right?
And uh, I can choose an awful lot of what I do with my time. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that freedom. I can feel it. And you were the first woman to complete the North Country Trail in 2010.
Well, I'm gonna just clarify that just a
Okay.
teeny bit.
Do that.
I'm the first woman to hike the whole thing.
Okay.
The first person to ever follow the entire trail is a lady named Carolyn Hoffman, um, who, but it wasn't even authorized as a trail yet, but the general route had been laid out, and a group of people started out to hike the whole thing. Um, One person finished the whole thing, but she did part of it by bicycle. I mean, there was they when they could find trail, they would walk on trail, but some places they just couldn't find anything. So she ended up riding bicycle through a great deal of Ohio and Michigan. And then there was another woman with her who almost completed it, but she got hurt and had to go
Hmm.
home to heal for, I don't know, over a month, I
Oh,
think.
dear.
So Carolyn was the first person to complete the whole thing. We're now calling that an end-to-end trip. So we're
Okay.
giving her a lot of credit. And
Excellent.
and she inspired me. Oh my gosh, she really inspired
Oh,
me. But I did the whole thing on foot. So,
sweet.
yeah,
Oh, I can't believe it. So, and you did it again
I did.
when you were 75.
Yep.
So, what was the difference between the second time and the first time? Body, mindset,
Well,
logistics? What was the difference?
there was a lot of things that were different. The reason that I wanted to do it again, I knew I wanted to do it again as soon as I finished it the first time, because there were so many pieces that were being taken off-road. It's an immense project to get 4,800 miles of trail all off-road, and we did not have, we still don't have, we never will have some of the political advantages that the Appalachian Trail was given when that was authorized. So the process for the North Country Trail to get everything off-road is slower, but it will happen. But people were calling me up or seeing me at conferences and going, "Wow, we've taken these 15 miles that you hiked that road. It's all in the woods now. You have to come see it." And
Okay.
lots of places like that. So in 2010, I knew right then that I wanted to do it again, but I couldn't figure out how to make that happen logistically.
And how long does it take? Did it take you in 2010?
Well, depends on how fast you hike. Okay. So, my goal was to complete it in a calendar year, but not because I was hiking slowly, but because of logistical issues. I had car trouble, I got the flu. It- some things that I thought, like to stage a section, there's a couple of sections that you have to backpack. Okay, you can't just day hike them and get picked up somewhere. And one of those ended up taking days longer to stage that portion than I thought. So what happened was that by the time I got into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, I need to explain. I did what's called a flip-flop. I started near home, which is down near Ludington, and got on the trail. It's about 15 miles, well, from Ludington. It's about 20 miles east of there that it crosses, which is the closest the trail comes to my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I got on the trail there
Mm-hmm.
on December 1st of 2021, and I hiked trail east towards Vermont. I got to Vermont, I drove to North Dakota, and then I started hiking
Oh my
home.
gosh.
But because of all these things that kind of held things up, um, I got into the Upper Peninsula I actually got into the Upper Peninsula in October. And so I knew that I was, pushing my luck with the season,
Oh
okay?
my
But I
goodness.
thought I'd be okay. Well, they got in November, they got an early snowstorm that just
In the
closed.
UP.
Yeah, it just closed all the roads in the western UP. Porcupine Mountain State Park closed all the roads.
Oh my gosh.
Trap Hills was snowed in. You couldn't get in there. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to complete it in one real shot. So I had to go home for a while and wait for the snow to melt in the
Right.
spring.
Right.
Yeah. So it ended up taking me 18 months because I had to take a little break
Sure.
in there.
Yeah.
And I averaged 13.2 miles per day.
That's a
So my
lot.
goal was 15. That was close.
It's so amazing.
Um,
So many miles.
right. And
It's a half marathon.
well, yeah, it is.
It
Yeah.
is.
Um, there are younger folks that easily hike 20 to 25 miles a day. And
Right.
if you do that, you can hike the trail in 10 months, But I'm not doing that anymore.
No, no, no. So your new book is How to Hike the North Country Trail, Not Quite a Guide. Why not? Why not quite?
Okay. Uh, when people buy a trail guide, there are certain expectations because it's the things that trail guides contain, and that would include the things that are in this book. But it usually would also include things like water sources and places to park, and uh, what not just the places to park, but if you've got to have a permit to park there, if you can park there overnight, all this kind of information. Okay, resupply places. Just probably information about the trail tread,
Mm-hmm.
distances between um, lots of these points, okay? But what I focused on two things because they are the biggest needs for long distance hikers on the North Country Trail right now. We have a real difficulty because this trail was authorized differently from some of the other national scenic trails. And so you cannot just hop on this trail and then camp anywhere you please, which you almost can do on the Appalachian Trail. There aren't very many places. If the places along the AT where you can't camp are well known and well marked and very few, okay? Um, it's really, well, it's not quite the opposite with the North Country Trail because dispersed camping, which means you can camp pretty much anywhere, is allowed in the national forests, which we go through 10 national forests, and some state forests, but not some state forests. So the way that the North Country Trail is managed, each land manager gets to set their own rules.
Okay.
So we were having a terrible problem with people coming from hiking some of these other trails and thinking that they could just throw their tent down anywhere and
Mm.
getting in trouble with police. And
Ooh.
the biggest problem for the trail is that we have a number of places where we have either some kind of permission to cross private property, okay?
Mhm.
And the property owner usually has expectations, rules, you can hike through, but you can't camp. You can hike through and you can camp, but no fires,
Mm.
you know. And people just aren't aware of all of these differences as
Sure.
you go. So the first 100 pages of this book is an attempt to explain, well, it's more than an attempt. I'm pretty sure I succeeded at this. It's an explanation of
Sure.
why the North Country Trail is different from the other trails, how it is organized. I use the word politically only as in contrast to geographically.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
political parties. Um, and um, what you can expect,
Mhm.
what kinds of things you might expect in each state, and all of the places that you can go for additional help and additional maps. It explains how to use the trail maps that the North Country Trail provides, all that kind of stuff. Then the entire rest of the book is, now I use the word attempt, is the first ever attempt to list every legal place to stay along the
Oh,
entire 4,800 miles.
what an awesome guide.
Because I like to plan hikes. Most
Sure.
people don't like the planning.
Oh.
And they're just like, oh my gosh, if I have to do all that, I'm just either not going to do it or not going to do the planning. I'm just going to go out and hike and camp wherever I please, no matter what anybody says.
Wow.
And there are people saying that,
Wow. Yeah.
um, or they're just not going to do overnight hikes.
Mm.
So um,
But
this
you
is,
said on the trail there are times that you have to backpack.
yes, not actually not too many. There are road of some description access
Okay.
on most of it, but you have to backpack part of the Border Route Trail in northern Minnesota. You
Mhm.
have to backpack some of the trail in the Adirondacks, and you have to backpack a piece of the Long Trail in Vermont.
Mhm.
Everything else, if you get creative and have the right kind of vehicle,
Mhm.
you can divvy it up into chunks that you can
Now, do
hike in
you
a day.
take anyone with you or are you solo?
Both. On the big hike, the most recent one, I had somebody with me, and it was different people, but someone with
Mhm.
me about a third of the time, and about 2/3 I was hiking alone, which that's perfect for me. I like that.
Yeah, I like being alone.
I do.
Now, across the states, you bring up Minnesota, you bring up the UP. Does it, I don't know the route. Does it
Sure.
go through Canada or does
Nope,
it stay in
it's all in
the
the
US?
northern US. It traverses 8 states. So west to east, those are North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Vermont.
What? Of the trek, which is your favorite? Would it be the Adirondacks because that's where you're
Everybody,
from?
everybody asks me that, but what I love about this trail and what I believe to be the real strength of this trail is the diversity of experiences.
Mhm.
Okay, so one of the, and I don't mean this deprecatingly, but one of the nicknames for the Appalachian Trail is the Long Green Tunnel because it's on the ridge of the Appalachians and it's largely forested.
Mhm.
Um, so you see all these photos of these beautiful vistas, and that's true. That's great. They're there, but an awful lot of that trail is walking in a long green tunnel. Okay,
Okay.
and this trail, you can hardly walk 5 miles without finding something different. There are very few long trails in the Great Plains, and we have 450 miles in North Dakota, and then another 100 in Minnesota that are really Great Plains before you get into the hills in Minnesota. So that's a really different
That
experience.
is.
Yeah.
That is. You have to appreciate the difference.
And it's, you know, it's a different kind of beauty.
So that's what you enjoy about it. It's that it's always it's diversity.
Yep, it is. You know, I mean, there's the rocks in northern Minnesota, and of course, some places in the Upper Peninsula. The Adirondacks is a very special place
I
in New
love the
York.
Adirondacks. They're
The
so
Finger Lakes,
so
I'm in love with.
beautiful.
That's where I grew up, you
Sure,
know.
yes.
And Ohio is, a lot of people are, they don't understand why a National Scenic Trail would go down through Ohio. But one of the mandate for the National Scenic Trails is that they would showcase um, historical, environmental, scenic, and cultural uh, things
Yeah,
along
right.
along its route. Okay, and Ohio is so full of culture and history. It's
Hmm.
just there's canals and railroads
Hmm.
and the settlers and the veterans from the Revolutionary War
Yeah,
who then homesteaded in Ohio, which of course gets you into all the Native American history.
sure.
And uh,
So do you
it's
go by the
beautiful.
Erie Canal?
Well, that's in New York, but yes,
Yeah,
we are along the Erie Canal for a ways.
I thought
Yep.
maybe. That's so exciting. I love it. So before we move on, I want to ask you, did you ever encounter any experiences with animals?
Well, sure.
Tell me a little bit about the animals you encountered.
So I haven't had any truly frightening ones, but we saw a mountain lion in the Upper Peninsula, several bears, um, three moose,
Ooh, they're
uh,
big.
one in Minnesota, and well, I've seen a lot of moose in Minnesota, but one on the close on the trail, and two in the Adirondacks.
Hmm.
Um, Very cool experience in the Upper Peninsula. We watched a wolf family, mom and dad, and two teenage puppies. They were just hilarious.
Oh,
Yeah, and they never saw us.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. So you brought your camera today. Do you photograph your trips?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
get programs.
oh, very cool.
Yep.
That is so, you are a fascinating lady. So let's move on to the North Country Cache.
Okay.
You make a long national scenic trail feel doable for mere mortals. What's your core philosophy for turning an epic footpath into a series of bite-sized wins?
Okay. Well, that's easy actually. And there are an awful lot of people who are putting that into practice because um, okay, the number of people that we know of now who have hiked the entire North Country Trail is just over 30. And there aren't a lot of people who are uh, even thinking of taking that on. But there are literally hundreds of people who are trying to do one state. Okay.
Hmm.
And you do that by if you're still working long weekends,
Right,
whatever,
right.
and you plan, it's the logistics, you know,
Hmm.
you go, well, I'm going to get some help to get spotted so that I can only have to hike at one direction. And I'm going to, on one weekend, if you can hike 10 miles a day, that's, you know, you can do 25 to 30 miles in a long weekend. Um, you can do, you can, most people can do that have goals like that can do 25 miles in a 2-day weekend.
Hmm.
There are some people who are doing fewer miles than that, but um, yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's some people who are working on a whole state who
And
can't do
that's
that
what
much.
the cache does. It
Well, Cache, okay, North Country Cache and North Country Quest are a pair of books that they are stories from my first hike up the trail,
okay.
which was all done in sections, okay?
Hmm.
It was everything from an afternoon hike to a 2 or 3 week backpacking trip.
Hmm.
My best friend and I, she was a teacher, so she had the summers free. So every summer we would go and do a 2 to 3 week backpacking trip
Hmm.
on the trail. And I kept a spreadsheet of every place that we'd been and every place we had to fill in, and eventually I got it all filled in.
Wow, that's
So
so
yeah, the
exciting.
bite-sized chunks is you just once you decide that's what you want to do,
Mhm.
it's mental.
Well, I think that people in the audience are now going to be inspired to try at least the cash approach or the little segments, and then maybe they can turn it into the whole
Sure.
thing.
And
So 30 people, that's not a lot of
no, it's
people.
not.
How long has this trail been in existence?
It was authorized in 1980.
Okay. Wow. And
And
is that in what department of the federal government?
it's under Department of the Interior.
Under the
Yep.
interior. How many trails are there, do you know, in the United
Yes,
States?
there are 11 National Scenic Trails.
Okay.
And um, the North Country Trail was in the second group to be authorized. The Appalachian Trail, Continental Divide, and Pacific Crest were authorized in 1968, which was the year that the National Trails Act was signed by President Lyndon Johnson. So that created National Scenic Trails. And then in 1980, the North Country Trail, the Florida Trail, and the Ice Age Trail, which is in Wisconsin,
Hmm.
were authorized. And I don't know if anybody's even can say who's third, fourth, and fifth, but we were the next three.
Next group.
Yeah,
Wow, that's such good history. So let's move on to the Anastasia Raven and the Dead Mule Swamp. Cozies lean hard into the small town Michigan. Old farmhouses, found newspapers, community secrets. How do you keep the sense of place fresh across these series? So we're pivoting from her hiking experience, and now we're going to talk about her as a writer and as an author. And so, can you tell us a little bit about this book about the Anastasia Raven and the Dead Mule Swamp?
sure. So I had North Country Cash was written, well, it came out in 2005. So
Okay.
that was nonfiction. And I had previously written, well, I've been writing my whole life, but another short nonfiction book. And I decided that I wanted to try some fiction. And I love mysteries. I
Hmm.
read a lot of mysteries. And so they always say, write what you know. And I'm like, what the heck do I know? So everybody thinks, well, you could do a bunch of murder mysteries that are set on trails. And I go, no, no, no. People are already terrified to go to the woods. I don't want to
Oh,
make it
yeah.
worse.
I know when you hear these stories about the Appalachian Trail, and I've heard so many scary things about it. Probably Mr. Ballin on the YouTube, he talks about those scary experiences. So I'm afraid too.
Yeah, the trail is not frightening, and I just don't want
You don't want
to
to
add
add
to
to
that.
it,
Yes.
right? Okay, so
So
you like mysteries,
what
and
I
is that like Agatha Christie type
they're
mysteries?
similar. They're similar.
Okay, because I love
What
that.
I know is small towns,
Okay,
and these are in the author world. These are technically cozies because they don't have sex and gore happen off stage. Okay,
okay.
but they're murder mysteries.
Oh, I
But
love that.
Agatha Christie is technically a cozy mystery
Yeah.
because they're not full of gory
No,
stuff.
they
Yeah,
just scream at the beginning and
yeah,
then move
yeah.
on.
So mine are not, for the most part, they're not quite as long, and I'm certainly not going to compare myself to Agatha Christie, but of that style.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I had to decide what I thought I knew that I could write about, and I read just about any kind of mystery. I love thrillers, and I read military ones and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, well, in medical mysteries, but I'm like, well, it would take a lot of research. What do I know anything about, right? So I'm like, well, I've always lived in small towns. I know how small towns operate,
Okay.
which is, of course, the typical setting for cozy mysteries.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Right.
um, so there you go. So I made up a small town and a group of people, and they seem to be working pretty well.
Oh, fantastic. So what does that mean? Well, like, is that they're selling?
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Fantastic.
I'm not raking in a lot of money,
No,
but I'm
but
I'm
you've got
doing
it.
better than some independent authors, and I'm working on marketing. Most authors uh, most authors are really weak at marketing, and I'm right there with them. But I've learned a lot, um, and I do a lot of vendor events,
Mhm.
and I get a lot of repeat customers. I mean, there aren't very many people who think my books are poorly done or stupid. I mean, if you don't like cozy mysteries,
Then don't read
buy
it.
something
Yeah,
else, you know.
don't pick it up.
But
Well, I'm excited. I think it sounds extremely exciting to me. Let's talk a little bit about the Dubois files.
okay.
What's up with that? With the 1950s kids mysteries that weave in forgotten crafts in mid-century social questions, what skills or values are you trying to smuggle into the young readers' lives? So this is for young readers.
It is. But let's start with why they got written, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't remember where I was in the series. I now have 7 of the Dead Mill Swamp books.
Okay.
And um, so I would go to vendor events and people would say, "Oh, don't you have anything for kids?" And I go, "Well, no." And it occurred to me at some point that I could take the main character in the Dead Mule Swamp books is Anastasia Raven, but one of her really good friends is this older lady named Cora, who is sort of the self-proclaimed local historian. And
Mhm.
I could take Cora and have her tell stories from her childhood that would
Hey.
be set in the same locale as the Dead Mule Swamp books, but uh, you know, 60 years earlier.
Awesome.
Okay. So in the Dubois files, because Cora's last name as a child was Dubois. So
Hmm.
Cora and oh well, I should tell you one other fact from the second story in the Dead Mule Swamp books brings in a lot of backstory of how Anna moved to this town and the house she bought was really old, and it turned out that Cora had dated the the boy whose grandfather had built the house that Anna bought. Okay,
Wow.
so there was all this
Yeah,
beginnings of backstory there.
right.
So I took it back to when Cora was in elementary school and Jimmy was the boy. So Cora and Jimmy are best friends, and then there's a little African American brother and sister who live up around the corner, and this was very typical in the 50s. In fact, of course, this was in New York, but one of my friends as a child was a little boy whose family were tenant farmers. Okay, they came from Yugoslavia, but in the books I made this family come from Hungary because Hungary had a lot of unrest in the 50s.
Mm.
So George and Ruby live up around the corner, and Laszlo's family has come to live as tenant farmers on Jimmy's farm. So there's these 5 little kids, very diverse group of children with their families associated. You know, so you can bring in some different cultures kinds of
Mhm.
things, and they get into all kinds of kid type mysteries,
Oh, this sounds
adventure.
so good. I
Yeah,
just love it.
yeah.
Oh, this.
So without they're not Christian fiction, but they have, I don't beat you over the head with it, but they have morals. I mean, kids were expected to, we all lived up to certain standards
Mhm.
in that time period.
That's right.
Um, and hopefully breaking down barriers of treating people who don't look like us differently.
Hmm.
There are one book has a lady from the Philippines in it, and of course Laszlo's family is Hungarian.
Right.
Yeah, and
I think
so
that those values, kids always need to learn values, and in a book you can just bring it in a new
yeah,
way, in an empathetic way.
probably the most obvious um, plot is in the one called The Big Boss, where there's this little Mexican boy whose family has decided to not go back to Texas or Mexico when the harvest season is over. They're migrants,
Mm.
and so they stay on for the school year, and kids learn what Tito's living conditions are like and are really appalled by it. And so they go to the big boss, his name is Mr. Big, Bigg,
Mhm.
to try to get him to fix the housing. And so it, it brings in some of these social
Love it.
issues.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. Very, very intriguing. Well, I'm sure all of you are wanting to know where to find these books, and I promise that all that information will be in the show notes, not just for you, but for me too. Okay. Wow, we could talk all day. You've written also, really, I love these two book lines. I don't want to leave them. I don't want to leave the trail either. This is so much fun. You've written the monthly Get Off the Couch column for years.
Yes.
And that's a periodical, isn't it? That's not a one and done. That's
Well, it's that column is for the Leadington Daily News, and they feature it once a month. So,
awesome. What's the simple nudge that gets sedentary readers outdoors?
well, it's not the same thing for everybody, okay? But I try to encourage people to do something, anything. Um, if you aren't motivated to go out and look at fall colors or spring wildflowers, maybe you would be motivated by geocaching, okay?
Yep.
Or maybe you would be,
Okay, will you define what that is? Because a
oh, sure.
lot of people might not know what
So,
geocaching is.
um,
I
I,
do just because
I
I
think
did it once.
I think most people realize that the entire planet is divided up into a grid system with latitude and longitude, so that if you've got these two numbers, you can find that place on the globe.
Right.
So geocaching, the short version is there are little boxes of things hidden, and that set of two numbers is recorded on a website, and people can go to the website and look up those coordinates, and then they have to go find the
So
box.
I always wonder who puts, is it, I know I'm being facetious, but it's not little fairies
No.
that do that. Who does that?
Um,
Do you know?
oh, sure. I have several friends who are big
And
geocachers.
they actually put the treasure.
They both collect them and they have put some out.
Wow.
Um, the there aren't any, like legal rules, but sort of the common wisdom is that you shouldn't put ones out that are too far from where you live because they do need to be maintained. There's
Mhm.
usually there's at least a little log paper in them, so you sign if you reach that spot, you sign the little log
And
paper.
what's
And
normally in the cache?
some of them have little prizes, okay? That you
Like
can
what?
oh like like things that look like little things out of a gumball machine or little I'm not a geocacher, but
Like a jacks or
little
something?
pencils or jacks or keychains or who
Just
knows,
something.
just something.
Something.
And you don't have to take that, but you there are people who do this for credit. Okay, I have one friend who's almost at 4,000. I have another who's at 10,000, which means they've gone and found that many places. So you're supposed to sign the little log paper, and then if you really want to count them, you go to the website that's the clearinghouse for all these and sign that you found that
That's
one.
so
Yeah.
exciting. I just think that's so cool. So that would get somebody off the
Yes,
couch
that's
to
who.
go treasure hunting.
Yep. Maybe you're motivated by prizes. Okay. There's the North Country Trail Association has been doing this is their 10th year. It started just as well, let's try this and see what happens. And it's turned into the best marketing thing they've ever done. It's called Hike 100. And if you hike 100 miles on the North Country Trail in a calendar year, and they don't have to be unique miles, okay? If you live near a park where there's a mile of trail, you can hike that same mile 100 times,
Hmm.
okay? But if you do 100 miles on the North Country Trail in a calendar year, you get a patch, an embroidered patch. And there are not all of them finish, but there's about 3,000 people that sign up for that every year. It's turned into a huge
Wow, that's
thing. Yeah,
amazing.
and it's, anybody can do it. It's free. Um, So maybe you're motivated by getting some kind of an award like that. Maybe you're motivated by um so there are like fun runs that are sometimes
Hmm.
well this doesn't have to be on the North Country Trail.
Get
There's
out
fun
there, get
runs.
off the couch,
Three
right?
3 miles or 5 miles, and you don't have to run them. Most of them you can walk,
Mm,
Maybe that motivates you.
sure.
There's a one of my columns I wrote about uh it's becoming an art form, okay? That you lay out a route on a map that if you could see it, it would draw a picture, okay?
Huh.
But now with electronic mapping devices, you
You
can
can actually
draw
see
it.
it. What?
Yeah, so people have drawn teddy bears and dinosaurs and all kinds of things,
Oh,
And
how
so,
fun. Yeah,
if trees don't turn you on, go draw dinosaurs.
right, right. Just
Uh,
get out and move.
anything. Just get
Well,
out there.
that's awesome. How long have you been doing that for the living?
Um, well, there was a little bit of a break during COVID. They really cut back on all their they cut all the columnists during
Okay.
COVID, but I started about uh it's got to be close to 20 years ago.
Fantastic. I
Yeah.
bet you have some followers there. So you publish under your own Books Leaving Footprints banner, and you are constantly at these book events. What's your indie playbook, like as an independent, balancing writing, production, hands-on selling? Um, what's your secret?
Well, there is no secret. It's a lot of work. It's too much work for one person, but you if you want to succeed as an indie author, I mean, maybe you just have a story to tell. Maybe you've just got a memoir that's just burning within you and you're going to write one book. Well, that's different. I have 17 books, okay? So, our goals are maybe a little different. But if you want to sell books, uh, you are a small business, okay?
Yes.
You're not just, oh, I have a book.
Right.
Would you like one here? Let me give you one. Uh, so, there's all of that business record keeping to
Right.
do that
Right.
that you have to do, and you've got to file sales tax or you get in trouble. I mean, it's just, you
It's a
can't,
business.
it's a
It's a
business. It's a
business. So
business.
all that a business
Um,
entails.
and you need to work on the things you're weak at, which, as I said, for most of us authors is the marketing
Hmm.
part. You need to, which includes, everything from clarifying your audience to how much you're going to spend to get somewhere to sell books. If
Hmm.
you're going to spend $300 for the weekend and sell 5 books, probably shouldn't bother.
Yeah,
you know.
that doesn't add
Um,
up, does it?
to well, you decide who your audience is. I mean, I said that. So,
Mhm.
um, and just do it until you learn what works and what doesn't.
Right. I
Yeah.
follow that. That makes sense.
But there's always that tension between, okay, I need to sell books, but yeah, I need to write more on the one I'm working on, and
Right.
I want to go on a hike instead.
Oh,
So,
it's such a balancing act. I can imagine. So do you have a book in the works right now?
oh yeah, I have 2 of them.
Oh, good for
Yeah.
you.
So the
Wonderful.
next uh the next Dead Mule Swamp book and the next children's book.
Nice.
So the next general mystery is actually it's not going to take place in Dead Mule Swamp. It's called Vacation from Dead Mule Swamp.
Okay, we're leaving
And
Dead Molly Swamp.
yep, so some of my characters come to Ludington. It's actually set in
Oh, how
Ludington.
exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Ludington. It's such a great town. And you also are a volunteer on the
Oh
trail.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, how much time does that take?
Well, as much or as little as you want, but I spend a lot.
What do you do?
Um, Well, I do everything from actual trail work. I mean, I have 3 miles of trail excuse me, that are my adapted miles. And so I go out a few times a year and uh, make sure they're clear and that the signage is still in place. If there are big trees down. You have to be a certified sawyer to use a chainsaw in because our trail is in the national forest. Okay, so we have more rules than if it were on a piece of private property.
Okay.
Um, and
Which forest?
Manistee
Yeah.
National Forest. I've never bothered to get certified because we always had enough people that wanted to do it. And so if
You're tiny, and the chainsaw
well,
would be bigger than you unless you got a tiny one.
they're much lighter than they were, but I was already in my 50s when that even sort of came up as, when we became a chapter that was maintaining that section of trail. And I was like, you know what? There's all these big guys that want to do it.
Do
I'm
it.
just going to let them do it.
I don't blame you.
So I just report those. If there's big trees down, I
Oh,
just report
you're
them.
such an inspiration. Every which way I see.
So
So,
everything from that to um, giving programs about the trail, telling people about the trail. I've led, I now know a lot of stuff, particularly about mapping. I've led seminars on how to use the maps and, all kinds of things.
well, goodness gracious. So, alongside your trail guides and fiction, you've written faith forward pieces like devotions for hikers.
Yep.
How do you write about belief in a way that welcomes all readers?
Well, um, uh, you probably can't. I mean, if you have a belief system, and I am a Christian, I considered a lot of the options, and in my opinion, there is a God. So if there is a God, which one is the one that truly seems sensible? Okay, and the God of the Bible. I don't want to get into a lot of this now, but is the one that aligns for me with things that make sense in my head.
Me
Okay,
too.
and we're not going to take it any farther to get
Okay,
into what flavor and
sure.
all of that stuff. So my religious writings are my faith-based writings are from a Christian perspective. Okay,
Hmm.
so devotions for hikers is based on the Bible, and I once had a fellow from, I don't know exactly. I'm guessing India, but I don't know for sure. Pick it up and say, "Oh, what is this?" And I went, "Well, that's devotions that are based on the Christian faith." And he dropped it like it was a hot potato.
Oh
So
dear.
that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay. I'm not
yeah.
trying to offend him, but I wanted him to
Right,
know where it was coming from.
right.
And then I also have I actually wrote this in the 80s, but it's now available as a regular looking paperback. It's called Would You Dare? And that is 12 short biographies of historic Christians.
Mm,
So I have these available, and um, I'm not trying to hit anybody over the head with them, but they're out there.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think he brought you here today because you're really sharing so many wonderful things with all of our audience, and God bless you for that. So finally, one last question, and I hope this doesn't offend you, but for listeners who think they're too old or too busy,
Yep.
what's your realistic blueprint? Training, planning, resupply, and tackling that big trail goal later in life. And you can even include some of the hard things.
Okay, well, when I when I finally put this plan together to take off and do the trail for a second time,
Hmm.
I was 72 when I started, and I had this whole logistical plan. I had a spreadsheet for how far I was going to get every day that of course had to be changed often, but
Hmm.
but I had a
At least
plan.
you had the plan.
Right. I knew where uh I knew what time I thought I needed to be to North Dakota by to be on schedule.
Hmm.
And so I could see that I was slipping a little as I went. So it wasn't a big surprise when I got in trouble in the UP, okay?
Hmm.
So a lot of planning. I
Hmm.
had most of the hike was what's called supported, okay? I did most of it as day hikes. I have a little travel trailer, and I usually had someone with me who was staging me for each day.
Does that mean they don't walk with you?
Most of the time they didn't.
So they drop you off and pick you up.
Most of the time. Now,
Okay.
some of those people would hike a couple miles with me in the morning and then turn around, but most of them were not interested in hiking 13 to 15 miles. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, that said, one of my good friends named Bill Curtis hiked almost 1,500 miles with me, and when he was with me, we could spot ourselves. We had the two cars,
Sure.
and then he would hike the whole day with me.
Hmm.
So um, some of that was planned out. Having somebody to be in the trailer with me and cook for me, which I thought I needed, as it turned out, I ended up cooking for myself a lot of months because I ended up without a person with me. Anyway, it all worked out, but
Sure.
I had done all that planning, okay,
Right.
and um, knowing which sections I needed to backpack, and uh, I did training,
Mm-hmm.
ahead of time. Uh, So, but you go out there, and I don't care if you're 15 or I don't care if you're 21 or what was I, 72. I don't care if you're 22 or 72, okay? Things can go wrong. And probably the best news interview that was ever done with me was um, just over near Battle Creek. So I'd only been on the trail like 2 weeks, okay? And this guy came and did this interview with me that has turned out to be a great interview. He got some great video footage, some of it with a drone,
Oh,
seeing us
very
walk through the
cool.
woods and stuff.
Yeah.
And uh, but I was feeling like, I'm going to be out there for a year, and this is like week 2, and what if I can't make it, I don't
Mhm.
know if I can hike 15 miles a day for 12 months,
Oh,
Um, but I tried to be honest about that, and of course, there were some people on Facebook like, bah, she'll never make it.
oh,
Why is an old woman trying to do that?
isn't that, don't they
You
just
know,
give you fuel? That just makes you want to do it even
yeah, it
more.
does, it
It
does.
just fuels
Um,
you.
but then I did make it. So yeah, yeah. So
So,
if you don't try,
yeah,
and actually one of the things that made me, because I had to give up, turned out to be over a year of my life to do that. Okay,
sure.
so there no writing happened during
Yeah,
that. I was writing. I did send articles to a couple of the newspapers regularly, but I wasn't working on books. I wasn't selling books. I wasn't writing books. I wasn't thinking about books. Um, but as I was planning this whole thing, I was 70, 71, 72. I'm like, well, if you can't do it, I'm like, well, Joan, if you get to be 82 and you didn't even try, what are you going to say to yourself? And the answer is, you're going to wish you tried.
that's right.
So I tried and I did it.
And you did it.
Yeah.
What a great wrap up for this podcast. I just think you're an inspiration
Oh,
to
thank you.
everyone. And thank you so much for joining me here
Well,
today. I
thank you for
really,
having me.
oh, you're just a delight.
It
And
helps if you're a little bit obsessed with things too.
oh, sure. Oh, sure. And then also, if you do want to get going on some of this North Country Trail,
Yep.
buy your book. That way you'll have some, at least understand the lay of the land a little bit. And it sounds like there's a lot of resources out there too.
Yes, I would specifically mention go to northcountrytrail.org, which is a pretty logical
Makes
website
sense.
for the
Yep.
organization. And there are excellent free maps for almost all of the trail. Great resources, information about all the chapters along the trail, and we have thousands of people who will help you if you want to do a long hike.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you'll find all of the details in the show notes for this podcast. And thank you so much, Joan, for joining me today. And I'm so happy I met you
Thank you.
at that book fair.
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that, is there any last words you'd like to share with the audience?
Get off the couch.
Get off the couch. I'm with her. So, well, thank you very much, Joan, and thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.